it is your sympathetic nervous system that is ordering you to see all those catastrophic things. They're clustered together, right? So you need to activate the parasympathetic, which you also talked about last time, if you remember.
Yeah.
Right. So you can actually do stuff. One of the ways there's a vagus nerve. You can actually just tap here, right? That's one of the ways. There's many ways of doing it. You can also do something on your head, but some tapping of it actually activates that nerve. It's in the parasympathetic sympathetic nervous system,
Nervous.
and it's actually something that you can do yourself, right?
Yeah.
This is also why it's really nice to go to a body therapist, because they are not using words to calm your system. They are using your body to talk with your nervous system and calming it. So if we get too worked up, it's actually nice to get somebody to talk with your body or to calm your nervous system without using words, because words will sometimes just keep, as we said, keep
Yes,
re-traumatizing yourself, right?
it's actually the words that are somehow, there's this emotion, negative emotion, but it's the words that keep uh, allowing me to relive again through the emotion. So it's
Yes.
like, I might be calming, but then and this
Yeah.
calming and this
Yes.
and that's like how it can go on for minutes and minutes and minutes, while the initial stressful or whatever the initial impulse is long gone. I don't know. Yes, parking ticket.
Yeah.
I got it. I paid for it or whatever. Tough luck. But now I can and this again, and on top of all the other things that are happening. And
Exactly.
yes.
So you had this external impulse coming that you got a fine for not paying a bill, which was unfair because you didn't even know that you have got the bill in the gym, right? For January. So you got to pay, and then you had to, as many of us forget it, and life is busy, then you also have an extra fine on not paying the bill. At time you get double pay, right? Now you get emotional. I can even see that
It's
you're
so
getting
unfair.
right. And this impulse is creating this internal response in you. I could really like to ask you, where can you feel that response?
I am so poor at this type of where do you feel it in your body.
Okay.
I actually
Is it
have
in your
been.
head you feel it, or is it in the body?
I think it's for me. It's usually the head.
The
It's
head.
like I'm thinking through it,
Okay.
and I'm thinking through this thing that happened that it's unfair, and I'm immediately starting to link it with all the other unfair things that are going on in my life.
And you don't get a sensation in your arms like, oh, I want to fight somebody, or you get a grovel in your chest, or your stomach starts to say, well, no, if I see that accountant, I will.
uh,
You don't get that, or you want to kick something.
I've noticed that kicking things or being physical is not super helpful for me.
Okay.
Like a long time ago, I even had the I don't know how you call it, the training uh, sack or whatever. Yes, punching
Punching bag.
bag.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. That was very very long time ago. Very very. But it's not the way that works for me.
No, no, no. And that's completely fair. I just wondered if you get sensations. I mean, they don't have to be big. They don't have to overrule your
Mhm.
thinking. It could be that you are feeling comfortable enough for thinking, but is there sensations in your body, right?
You know what works for me? I've noticed very recently, and actually, a colleague pointed out her own uh, way how she links things, and it worked for me because I've noticed that the same way works for me. It's like trying to understand what is actually this emotion that I'm feeling, and also trying to link it with some past experience.
Oh, yes.
Where did I feel it as well?
Yes.
Which is super cool because I had a great discovery that I'm maybe not super eager to share on the recording.
That's fair. That's
But
fair enough. That
you know, I can pause the recording and tell you.
what you talked about is, I can just summarize it in a way that is not personal, is that you have right now a feeling, and you sort of like try to identify what kind of feeling it is. Like, we talk about 5 or 6 ground feelings, and unless all our other feelings are secondary or tertiary feelings of that. And the ground feelings, I have them on my wall right here. So it's like anger, joy, surprise, fear, sadness, disgust, and content. I think that's it.
Mm,
It depends on which religion you are, not religion within you are following.
yeah,
But you talked about fear, right? And you felt that fear in that sense, and then you were kind of going back and finding out, when did I, maybe last time, or where was there a significant episode or a situation in my life where I have had that feeling, and then you actually, your body called to your brain and said, oh, this situation, right? And you actually get back to that situation. And what we actually do in therapy, which is really interesting in this one, is working with that old situation, all that old sensation, right? So we are trying to do something that's called memory consolidation, which means we are looking at the fear, not in a way where you are experiencing it again more than from a scale to 1 to 7, like a 3, right?
yeah.
You're just grabbing it a bit, not like,
Oh,
right? But you're just grabbing it. And then we are looking at it. And what we're actually trying to do is try to put, that's interesting what we talk about here, because you have an internal response, right? So we're trying to find some internal good things and layer with the experience, change the experience, make it irrational. Sort of like, if you remember, one of the other
mm,
sessions we had with this topic is that you have a mental picture of it, and now we try to take that mental picture and make it abstract. We try to put different ways of things on it. We talked about using this with the eyes, EMDR, for instance. That's one abstraction. We try to add some resources. That's another abstraction. We try to go out and do position work and look at it from outside and look at the positive intention of it. Why is there? What is it that this field really wants with you? That's another abstraction. And then we're looking at other people in that situation, or fantasy people, or a fantasy friend that actually can help you in that situation and change that situation for you. What would that be like, right? And then go in and do it. That's a third or fourth abstraction. And then we could make you write a letter to your, in this occasion, a relative, and say out, this is not fair. Going back, maybe the relative is dead or not available, right? I have done that with my dad and mom. Both of them are dead. I've written letters for them, went to the grave and read it out loud. And even just writing the letter to them, it's helping. And there's also, when we're just a nerdy part on the letter part, you should write it in your hand with your left hand if you're writing like a child, like back in time as a child, right? You can write it with your left hand instead of right. I'm right-handed. So you get that, you talk with other parts of your brain. So all this is something where you put different layers above, and it ends up having a picture that is completely different than the one you had, that you were afraid of. And then you obviously can laugh at it and say, well, I can see that I had some episode back then and I connect to it. So now when I sit in that situation today, I connect to that episode. because it's the same feeling
Yes.
but it was not provoke you. It's actually called reimprinting. It's it's really good way to understand that we are trying to reprogram by NLP, neuro linguistic programming, your brain to do something different, remembering something different, right? So it's pretty cool example. That is some of the essence of working with, you can call it traumas or whatever you want to call it, but experiences and
Yeah.
feelings we had from that remind us when we are in present of something in back in time, right? And that actually kind of haunt us directly, because once you get that feeling, you actually you go back to that situation in your head. You don't think about all the things. You just get that emotion state very fast, right?
Yes. Yes, and that's something to improve change in a sense of what you talked about resonates well with me in a sense of these are not things that you can rationally just sit and after 5 minutes think them through and now you're a changed person. You understand that making this connection makes no sense, so I will still simply stop doing that. It's not how it works.
Yeah,
You need to go through the very long and often difficult process because you are thinking about your traumas, your fears, yeah.
exactly. I would like to share a trauma that I had. I am very open about this, and I've been in therapy many times myself, working with this trauma to change it, and let's see how much that affects me while I'll put it out again here. So I was in school. I was very good at choir boy, and in that uh, what do you call that, commercial school where you go in the first, fourth, fifth grade or something like that. I was somehow the teacher of the choir. He thought that I should be the new star, and wanted me to do solo singing, and I did that. And whatever happens was that I wanted, once it was not so popular by the boys anymore, I didn't want to sing anymore. And then I was not allowed to do it. So I was very not so clever, or maybe I was clever. I said, if I'm not allowed to leave this choir, I can at least be kicked out. So I went for a young mind with experimental thinking, right? So I went for a concert we had in for the whole school, where I actually did some fooling around on the stage, and on the Monday I was called to the principal's office with the sing teacher and the second in command, and there were three adults, and I was the only one alone. At that time, you were allowed to smoke. You smoke pipe together with the kids, right? Or placed in a seat in a stool, and then they said, "Well, you should not have behaved like that." And what do you have to say in your defense? But I would, you shut up. You don't have to anything to say. You just keep your mouth shut. In here, it's only the adults who talks, but you should not blah blah blah. Like a assault, right, on
Yeah.
another. And emotionally, I really got so emotional, detached to it, so I didn't even tell my parents about it. I told some of my closest friend, and one of them, he went home to his mom and told that, wow, he was experienced. This is our school. Wow, what is happening, right? And his mom called my mom, and it ended up my parents saying, "Do you want to?" And this was one of the ways they wanted to solve issues at that time, back in the 70s, 80s. Sorry. Do you want to move to another school, Jacob? And I was like, yeah, let me flee, let me get out of there. So I never reconciliated. I never got that
Mm.
feeling. It's still it was still in me, right? I went to therapy. I am over 50 years old. And looking back when I was 12 years old, and the therapist was actually able to help me talk about what is it that you need in that situation. I need somebody to stand up for me, because I was not big enough to stand up. I didn't have the authority, even though I tried. I was really pushed down, right? Okay, so who could do that? that could be my mom and dad, but I couldn't really see they would be able to it. And then I said, could you self do it? Okay, I'm at the age of 55 or 54, and I could actually at that time, and I could actually stand up for myself. So I went in my mind into that room as me standing just beside myself at 12 years old, and really standing up for myself in that room, right? Together with the therapist. And that actually helped.
Mm.
Isn't that funny?
I think that's amazing.
So I got
Amazing that it helped.
exactly. So we talk about this is called inner child is in many different ways of working, but this is working with my inner child, helping my inner child with all the things that my inner child has experienced. So just being there as myself as now, together with actually they were younger than me now, right? Because they were younger at that time, and being able to stand up for myself and tell them that now, if you don't, blah, 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 right? Really defending. I really got, I mean, my feelings were like getting okay, right? So
Mm.
that's amazing. I might even take a crack at it at another time, also with another angle or something like that, right? But that's the memory. Other things you can do is you can, if something is too strong for you, um, and you can do that when you sit in a situation. I just did it. You can play with what called modalities, which is the colors, the temperature, uh, the form, the movement of things. For instance, my mom, she died of cancer in the gall, not the gallbladder, but the gallic, the tubes that brings
Yeah.
the gall, right?
Yeah.
And when that collapses, you get gall into your body, into the blood vessel, and that makes the bilirubins, I think it's called bilirubins, whatever, makes your skin completely yellow, right? And everything became yellow, and she was really yellow and also a bit, with air in because it's
Swelled. Yeah.
swelled exactly. And what I did in order, so my last picture with my mom was really, really, really nice, and it's close to my heart. And she reached out and put her hand on my cheek and looked me in the eye. She couldn't say anything, but I could just see that love. I mean, like, whoa, that's a really strong feeling.
Yeah.
It's my primary caring person providing something really, really strong there, right? But it nagged me that she was yellow and swallow, right? So what I've done is I have taken that picture and changed the color into black and white. So now I don't see this the yellow and the swallowing. I can live with that because I'm just focusing on the eyes. So when I recall that picture, she's black and white, and I only see the eyes of her and feel the warmth of her hand, right? So I've changed my memory of it. It's not done many times, but it's actually working for me.
Sounds. Thanks for sharing. And sounds amazing. Really amazing. Uh, I had a question, and now it feels like
Sorry.
not appropriate
Oh,
because
come with
I
it. I mean, we can
no
cut it out.
no, because that the what you shared was super personal. And just before you started talking about your mom, I was thinking if this has an application in business life, in a sense of
Hmm.
you have it has an application in personal life, like we just heard, but I imagine that's not what you're doing every day at work. If
I
that
love
makes
that question.
sense.
I think it's a fantastic question. Think about it. You're sitting in a meeting with a person that you sort of like tips you, or you are maybe you're even in a bad mood because you had got buying from some kind of billing company, right? And you sit in a meeting with a person who's tipping you, and you get into this survival mode. What can you do here now? You can, one, have a positive anger that you can release like that, or you can have something, right? I actually think I will use this one for forever now.
A long time ago, I've learned to play with something I have on my hand.
Yeah.
And I just did it as you were talking about your mom, which is funny.
Nice. But you need to have that inner feeling. It needs to be very specific, and you needs to be on the highest level when you release it, when you're making your own anchor, because that's
Yeah.
what you remember, right? So that's audio released anger, right? So that's one thing. You can play with the if you see somebody who's acting like a manager of something, right? Acting something, you can in front of your eyes try to take that situation and see how would that look like, and then you wouldn't be so observant for just this first thing. How would that look like if you play that backwards? And or how would that look like if he gets a clown nose on? I think about if you are looking at something that's ridiculous, right? All fired up. Well, I'll fire everybody. I know I want some result. And then just saying, maybe he's a dog standing. Right? So your imagination, you can actually just create other, and that will, because it's a stimulus, it's a stimuli on you or impulse on you, your inner response of the feelings will actually be triggered, right?
Sometimes things are going on and no one in the meeting room reacts. And I feel like something builds inside of me. And I also feel like, why no one is reacting to what's happening? And it's tricky because I know that when I react in this situation, it will be very emotion driven. But at the same time, I feel like someone needs to do something about it. If everyone is, everyone is silent, then it's some sort of accepting of, like everyone accepts what's going on. And that's where I struggle a lot with myself. Usually it keeps building up in me. And at one point, I'm like, all right, I have enough. I just need to speak now. And it's a mixed bag. Sometimes people appreciate it, like, no one was brave enough. I don't even know what is I don't feel like I'm brave. So I just feel like I had enough of this. So
Oh, wow.
does it provoke any thoughts for you?
No,
There is
no,
no
no.
question. There is no
No, I
question in
like
it.
that, but it's not one folded. So first part of it is that the only thing you can control is yourself, right? So we can rule out controlling everybody else. You cannot force them to say anything, and if you force them, it's something coming from inside with anger and feeling, and I mean, so what can you do? I was like thinking first level, very shallow, get comfortable with the uncomfortable silence, right? And the second level is like, how do you get comfortable with the uncomfortable silence, right? And the third level is like, should you always just be comfortable with the comfortable silence? So there's a thinking of different layers. So the first level, be comfortable on the comfortable silence. That's what you typically talk with when you talk with your cognitive brain, right? It's easy to understand that you should just shut up. But how do you handle all your emotions inside? So instead of emotions are there and then they're gone. And if we feed them, meaning if we pay the attention to them, they will stay longer.
Yes.
Right. So And this is where it divides into different areas, because if it stays longer, it could be because it's very important for you. It could be a value for you. Something is broken, something really important, right? It could also just be a habit. And I'm not sure which of these we're talking about, but if it's a habit that you are, it's too long now, I need to break this because it makes me feel uncomfortable. You can do something about that in your inner
Mm.
reaction, right? So focusing on your breathing, not doing like this, but in your mind, think about your breathing. Let time passes while you think about something here and now, not what everybody else is not doing, or not what everybody else should be doing, or not but what is coming, getting what the future will bring. But here and now, I'm breathing, I'm enjoying. This is very nice. And that requires, of course, training that it's very nice to breathe. Right? So if you're not into breathing, another activity could be like, you cannot see my leg, but with flipping your leg like this, meaning that you've put your attention to your muscles. You can also just do like this. And then sense the feeling of the muscles. Because if you start thinking about that and sensing the feelings, you start off kind of diluting the other feelings. Right? They might not disappear, but they will mean less. So it is distracting yourself in the situation if it's that part. And then if you're in the value part, it might be okay, right? If you have a conviction that somebody must say something, and if nobody says anything within 10 seconds, I will do it. Well, what is the issue in that? That's okay for you then. But you need to be okay with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's many other ways of doing it, but that was what I thought of in the beginning. And that, me knowing and saying this doesn't mean that I am an expert in doing it. I'm still training. I also get triggered.
You know what? I think there's a huge gap between knowing the tools and actually use them,
Yeah.
or being an expert at using them. It might be a whole life learning process. So
Yeah, because the trigger feeling, I tend to say something which is also a belief in history. I'm not completely sure everything is like this, but I'll put it out. There's a trigger, and that trigger a feeling or a body sensation, which or a thought
mm,
or some behavior, right? And all of this are interconnected, meaning that if I get a feeling, I might have a certain behavior, right?
mm,
Okay, I'm in danger, behavior, or I'm in danger. So you go into flee and fight and freeze mode, right? And yeah, I'm in danger. I also get some thinking, right? Oh, fuck, help. Oh, hey, don't talk like that to my wife or whatever, right? I mean, you get a thought on it and then you behave afterwards. It could be, don't talk like that to my wife, right? Or it could be, don't talk like that to my wife, or don't talk like that to my wife, right? Or don't talk to my wife like that. Hit me instead. Well, there's different ways of behaving to impulses, right? And the thinking, of course, is often provided internally, or it could be coming out of you also in some wording. Yeah, it's called the cognitive diamond. This one set up if you want to look at it, cognitive diamond learning. Some and there was the trigger. It goes a millisecond from when you get the trigger until you have a response, either an internal response, a feeling, some body sensation, or you have a behavior you go with, right?
Yeah,
or thinking, of course.
I think that's a lot of useful material.